For 75 years, the Veterans Health Administration has had the same mission: to honor America's veterans by providing exceptional health care that improves their health and well-being. Our shared approach in support of that mission has evolved with time, not only to ensure that veteran is the centerpiece of our advancements, but also to foster a climate where those who support and provide that direct care know that they are valued. And honestly, we couldn't have made it this far without their direct contributions through action. I'm John Jensen, Chief of Staff for the Veterans Health Administration, and I'll be your host for this special 75th anniversary event. Over the course of the program, we'll go on a journey where you'll learn about our chaptered history of service milestones and how today's best practices have been instrumental in our response to unforeseen challenges like COVID-19. You'll also get an inside look at the innovation ecosystem that helps shape the approach to healthcare on a global scale. Before we embark on the journey, our very own Sabrina Clark, Director of VA Voluntary Service, will sing the national anthem.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, but the rockets red glad placed in air gave proof that night our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the
We have a 75-year legacy filled with historic milestones and contributions in service to our nation's heroes. To understand where we're going as an administration, we must understand where we came from. Since our creation, we've aspired to be second to none in our contributions towards the advancements of healthcare and service to those who served. Our VHA historian, Katie Delacensory, will take us to where we began, making our hallmark in history.
The federal government has been providing health care to our nation's veterans since the first soldiers' homes opened at the end of the Civil War. However, modern health care for veterans began 75 years ago in the post-World War II era. The story of the creation of the Department of Medicine and Surgery, which would eventually become the Veterans Health Administration, started on August 15, 1945, when General Omar Bradley became administrator of the VA. Remember, August 15th is only one day after Victory over Japan Day, so while the rest of the nation was still celebrating the end of World War II, General Bradley was looking ahead at the challenges he would face and the importance of taking care of the nation's millions of new veterans. Speaking with reporters hours after being sworn in, he said, "I don't think there's any job in the country I'd sooner not have, nor any job in the world I'd like to do better. For even though it is burdened with problems, it gives me the chance to do something for the men who did so much for us." Bradley, the architect of D-Day, who was known during the war as a soldier's general, now found himself as a veterans general, as he became responsible for 16 million veterans returning from war in a rapid demobilization never seen before or since in this country. Improvements in battlefield medicine had left a higher wounded population than ever before. determined to remake the largest independent administration in the federal government and armed with the unprecedented support of the public, the president, Congress, and the media, Bradley set out with a battlefield mentality towards reforming healthcare for veterans. In 1945, when Bradley took over, the GI Bill was over a year old. This landmark piece of legislation mandated medical care for both service and non-service related injuries, as well as rehabilitation for veterans. There were nearly 500,000 veterans needing medical care. What awaited them were only 100 existing VA hospitals that were often located in rural areas and were overcrowded and understaffed. One of Bradley's first and best decisions was to enlist Dr. Paul Hawley, the former top military medical officer of the European Theater, as his top medical advisor, a job Bradley once described as the toughest job in the Veterans Administration.
Gentlemen, the law establishing a Department of Medicine and Surgery in the Veterans Administration, which the President signed early in January of 1946, is the finest charter ever granted to a government medical service. For the first time, we are able to classify people instead of positions to be filled by people. There are no limitations upon the number of doctors, dentists, and nurses we can employ in any grade. We can offer salaries based upon the training and the experience of professional people, rather than salaries fixed for the various positions in the service. These salaries are the highest ever offered medical people by our government. They are higher than the average paid for full-time positions in our medical schools. In addition to the better salaries, security in old age is ensured by retirement benefits. Since our physicians are furnished with all their professional equipment, including libraries and other adjuncts essential to the private practice of medicine, and since they do not have to maintain their own offices and office help, it has been estimated conservatively that the salary offered in the medical service of the Veterans Administration to well-qualified specialists is the equivalent of an income of $20,000 a year in private practice. But we are not interested in physicians who would be influenced heavily by financial rewards. We have something much better to offer them: the opportunity to practice the highest standard of medicine, to teach younger physicians, and to keep fully abreast of the advances in medicine. Within a very short time, the majority of our hospitals will be associated with medical schools and other teaching centers. The opportunities for research will be almost unlimited. No other full-time medical service offers comparable opportunities for professional advancement. To those loyal physicians, dentists, and nurses who have served the veterans for years without much encouragement, this new department brings advantages long denied them. We shall give them every opportunity to increase their professional stature and to advance in the service. We have employed outstanding medical men as consultants on a part-time basis. We have established residencies in a number of Veterans Administration hospitals, and we shall establish many more. We shall train hundreds of doctors in the various specialties of medicine. In cooperation with the medical profession of the country, we are expanding outpatient medical service for the veteran in his own community. As far as facilities are concerned, we expect to have nearly 200 hospitals functioning within the next several years. The designs will be of the very best. Much of the construction will be handled by Army engineers. The equipment will be the finest that money can buy. Moreover, we're insisting that our new hospitals be located close to medical schools or other medical centers. This will guarantee the most advanced consulting and research service and the best possible break for both the VA patient and the VA doctor. When you stop to consider, gentlemen, that by 1975 we expect to have around 300,000 beds, you can appreciate what we mean when we say that right now we are laying the groundwork for the greatest medical program in the history of the world. And gentlemen, it's not only going to be the greatest, it's also going to be the best. We mean to give medical care second to none. We are absolutely sincere about this. It's simple logic that to give the best medical care, we're going to have to staff our hospitals with the best medical personnel. We're not kidding ourselves. We know that we have opportunities of a standard the medical profession never saw before.
Together, Bradley and Hawley took on 3 major initiatives that would radically alter the nature of veterans' healthcare and form the foundation for today's Veterans Health Administration. First, and most pressingly, Bradley and Hawley needed to recruit thousands of doctors to meet the growing demand. The war and an outdated process of hiring through the civil service system had left the ranks of VA doctors depleted. The remaining eligible workforce available for hire was on average over 60 years old. Removing VA medical positions from the confines of the civil service system would allow Bradley and Hawley to recruit younger, more innovative doctors with the speed needed to meet the growing demand. Secondly, Hawley knew that those young and innovative doctors were coming out of medical schools. He, along with Dr. Paul Magnuson, a VA orthopedic surgeon, led the charge to create new academic partnerships between medical schools and the VA. Now, partnering with the nation's best medical schools would allow the VA to benefit from the immense research and teaching talents of these institutions. It would also provide training for veterans pursuing medical education after the war and provide a pathway for recruiting that younger and more innovative workforce. Thirdly, the location and structure of VA hospitals themselves would need to change. The sprawling campus-like soldiers' homes and hospitals that followed the Civil War and World War I were often located in rural areas and were oftentimes built as congressional pet projects. Bradley and Hawley decided that in order to serve the greatest number of veterans, new hospitals would need to be built near larger cities and close to the major medical schools they now sought to affiliate with. A greater emphasis was placed on innovation in these third-generation hospitals, including dedicating large amounts of space in these hospitals solely to research. It was projected to be the largest hospital construction project in history at the time. The push to reform VA medicine was not without challenges, though. Both Bradley and Hawley threatened to resign in late 1945 over tense negotiations on their hiring reforms. In the end, though, with overwhelming support, Bradley and Hawley's ambitious plan prevailed. On January 3, 1946, President Truman signed into law PL 97-293, creating the Department of Medicine and Surgery within VA and setting the stage for a year of rapid-fire transformation. Days after the legislation was signed, Northwestern University and the Hines VA Hospital became the first affiliated VA hospital and academic institution. Between 1946 and 1947, Bradley and Hawley, armed with a $500 million budget, continued to change the face of VA healthcare services. They undertook key initiatives, including increasing the number of hospitals from 97 to 125, and planning for an additional 70 new hospitals, constituting the largest hospital building project in American history, establishing the Office of Academic Affairs and creating partnerships with 63 medical schools, recruiting 4,000 full-time VA nurses, physicians, technicians, and other medical personnel, incorporating mental health services and facilities into the new design and operations of VA hospitals for the first time, re-envisioning the concept of the modern general hospital, creating a pilot program known as the Hometown Plan to allow veterans to be treated by local physicians, absorbing VA's research and development capacity, committing to spend more than $1 million each year, beginning with a focus on improving prosthetics for veterans with limb loss, establishing the VA Voluntary Service to augment and complement VA's professional health care staff, establishing the Veterans Canteen Service, expanding women's medical care with the hiring of Dr. Margaret Craighill to become the VA's first chief medical consultant on women's veterans medical care, and appointing the first 10 women doctors. Increasing VA staff from 65,000 in 1945 to 200,000 by 1947. Dedicating research space into plans for new hospitals to study prosthetics, paraplegia, epilepsy, tuberculosis, spinal cord therapy, blindness, and more. It must be noted, though, that while Bradley and Hawley made enormous strides, veterans of color would endure a slower pace in their healthcare transformation than white male veterans. In a real mark on his legacy, Bradley chose not to integrate existing VA hospitals and instead focused on integrating newly constructed hospitals, even though wartime hospitals were integrated. Unfortunately, VA hospitals were not fully desegregated until 1954. Omar Bradley left the VA in late 1947 to return as Chief of Staff to the Army. Dr. Hawley left shortly thereafter. One magazine wrote that, in 2 years, General Omar Bradley has transformed the medical service of the Veterans Administration from a national scandal to a model establishment. Creating the foundation for the modern VHA of today, the spirits of Bradley and Hawley still live on 75 years later, as countless doctors, nurses, volunteers, students, and public servants strive to make their own miracles every day to ensure veterans' healthcare remains second to none in this nation. Over the years, these collaborations have resulted in groundbreaking innovations in medicine, nursing, and research, including the cardiac pacemaker, nicotine smoking patch, the first successful liver transplant, the Seattle Foot, 3 Nobel Prizes, and the list is still being added to today.
The Office of Academic Affiliation celebrates the 75th anniversary of Policy Memorandum No. 2, which initiated a pioneering partnership between the U.S. government and medical schools to address the national shortage of physicians and the limited capacity of the VA to care for veterans returning from World War II. Over the years, VA's academic affiliations have developed into the largest public-private partnership in VA's history and have become a cornerstone of American healthcare professionals' education. In fact, through its academic affiliation programs, the VA has trained approximately 125,000 U.S. health professionals annually in 40 different disciplines.
World War II had just ended, and many veterans were coming home from the theaters of war. Hundreds of thousands of veterans that were wounded or had illnesses of war and needed to be treated as soon as they came back. The VA wasn't set up to care for this many veterans. Some brilliant physicians decided to create a partnership between academic institutions and the VA system. This would bring senior clinicians from medical schools with their trainees over to the VAs and help care for veterans, immediately improving the quality of care and the staffing deficit, but also provide a learning experience for these trainees.
For the past 75 years, academic medicine and the VA have had a wonderful relationship which really has impacted the public health. The physician training that happens at VA is incredibly important, and about 70% of all of our physicians from the United States get part of their training at the VA. 124,000 healthcare providers that were trained in the last year at the VA, over 40 different healthcare professions. So the impact is huge, and it's through this very special relationship with the VA and academic affiliates that this all happens.
You know, I believe that the collaboration that we've had has been extraordinary. We have benefited from having our students assigned to the VA for their clinical rotations. The VA has benefited from having our faculty serving as preceptors for the trainees. So it's been an extraordinary symbiotic relationship. The combination of the VA and the university hospitals, we have thousands of faculty. It gives the type of breadth of opportunity of health care that would not be ordinarily available elsewhere. And the veterans are the beneficiaries of that investment.
Interdisciplinary, interprofessional, multidisciplinary. There are many words for different kinds of health professions working together. We emphasize the whole person and whole health. That's hardly ever a one kind of profession. You need multiple people, and when they work together in a coordinated fashion, you help to maximize the health for the person.
We have affiliations across all health professions, from doctors and nurses to licensed professional mental health counselors, marriage and family therapists. A lot of mental health trainees rotate through VA, and that's really important for veterans.
I think it has meant the veterans get better care dramatically over the years, and I think the affiliation with the educational institutions means we both learn. The academic affiliation partnership and that model has been vital to VHA, our veterans, as well as for our country.
And we are able to recruit expert people from our academic institutions and the trainees to be able to provide the highest quality of care to veterans probably in our history. I think this is directly tied back to our affiliations with academic institutions.
I think we have a next 75 years that's going to be incredibly bright. We are going to see enhanced clinical training for our students. The research is going to continue to expand. We're going to hit on new areas that are particularly important to veterans: post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, neurological injuries.
The Office of Academic Affiliations is always looking to what's next. What is next? What is going to be where healthcare goes? What is going to be how we can make a difference? And how do we find those things out? Well, we try to pay attention. We have advisory committees who make suggestions and provide input and ask us questions that make us think differently sometimes. We also coordinate with so many of the professions that they provide us ideas. We have undertaken a number of initiatives to help expand our affiliate network, and that will continue to occur because it's important for the veterans, their care, and the training of the healthcare professional trainees.
More than 60,000 volunteers contribute to our mission of serving veterans here at VA. Over the years, VA volunteers have represented an unparalleled degree of dedication, commitment, and selfless service, with only the care for veterans as their compensation. Since the establishment of VA Volunteer Services, the department has enabled volunteers the opportunity to contribute their time, their smiles, and an unyielding customer service, all because they have the heart to do so.
Volunteering in the service of others is deeply rooted in our nation's history. Through the years, Americans have continually stepped forward to help improve the lives of others. This unwavering commitment to giving is the foundation of our culture, one that places great value on putting others before oneself. An excellent example of this unselfish generosity is the Department of Veterans Affairs Voluntary Service, or VAVS. Begun in 1946 after the Second World War, VA's voluntary service has a rich and proud legacy. It was General Omar Bradley who initiated its founding. As head of what was then the Veterans Administration, General Bradley established a coordinated and integrated plan for volunteers to support VA facilities, something that up until that point had been comprised of well-meaning but spontaneous volunteer efforts. General Bradley invited representatives from a variety of veteran service organizations to meet with VA leadership. The purpose was to discuss the need for a nationwide VA volunteer organization, one with a mission to support our nation's veterans while they're being cared for at VA healthcare facilities. Through this very focused beginning, a voluntary service organization was established to assist VA hospital staff across the country. This effort involved the creation of an advisory committee comprised of representatives from participating voluntary service organizations. And at the local level, volunteer service committees were established to meet the needs of veterans on a community basis. Initially, VA volunteers supplemented programs such as the chaplain, library, recreation, and canteen services. And then shortly after the formation of VA's voluntary service, its scope of support was extended to include medical services. The new policy established procedures for coordinating and integrating volunteer assistance into other areas. These encompassed physical medicine and rehabilitation, nursing, and social services. By 1975, the VA Voluntary Service National Advisory Committee had grown from the small group of initial veteran service organizations to more than 50 national groups, in addition to becoming a federally chartered advisory committee. As such, its purpose is to provide advice to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs through the Undersecretary for Health on the coordination and promotion of volunteer activities within VA healthcare facilities and on other matters related to volunteerism within VA. In 1989, the Veterans Administration was elevated to cabinet level and was renamed the Department of Veterans Affairs. Today, tens of thousands of VA volunteers devote millions of hours in service to America's veterans. In addition, there are thousands of national and community partners working with VA voluntary service to help support our nation's veterans through volunteerism. VA volunteers are dedicated to serving those who served our nation. These committed individuals are a priceless asset to America's veterans and to the Department of Veterans Affairs. Their involvement has expanded by augmenting VA staff in areas like community living centers, outpatient clinics, hospice care programs, adaptive sports, creative arts, veterans outreach centers, national cemeteries, and veteran benefits offices. VA volunteers also now support home health care programs, computer training for veterans, income tax preparation assistance, and transition programs for those with injuries returning from active duty. And more corporations are partnering with the VA Voluntary Service Program, encouraging their employees to become involved. As our mission evolves, VA Voluntary Service is striving to expand the potential to recruit and retain quality leadership to guide our facility-based programs, identify and establish strategic partnerships to increase our valued services, as well as build strong, better-informed internal VA advocates to establish meaning and value through service opportunities. VA volunteers are making a difference in the lives of veterans while honoring those who have given so much to our nation. Being a VA volunteer also enriches one's life by connecting with new people, learning new skills, and feeling a sense of pride by unselfishly helping others. For more information about VA's voluntary service, simply go to www.volunteer.va.gov.
Stories can convey a message or ignite a fire within your audience. What happens when it does both? You get TEDx Veterans Affairs. Since its licensing and integration into our organization, the stories shared have been received as some of the most forward-driven, thought-provoking, and transformative engagement resources we have to offer internally. Here's an inside look at TEDx Veterans Affairs.
Since we began in 2018, our stage has been shared almost entirely by VA employees. But we started with the future. A talk from Little Miss Corey Overstreet, who at 9 years old talked about the impact of being the daughter of veterans has had on her life.
My parents are important to me and my siblings. My brothers are always saying, I want to be a soldier like Daddy. My mother and father have inspired us to do great things. They have taught us to be kind, respectful, honest, and much more. They have made sure we have a great education. They make sure we succeed and be good people. This is what it is to have military parents that are also veterans. I'm very proud of them.
My name is Prince Taylor, and I'm the Deputy Director for VA Voluntary Service. And it has been one of my greatest honors to help bring VA's officially licensed, independently organized TED Talk program called TEDx Veterans Affairs, a program of such renown, to the VA. We've had foremost leaders in their field like Dr. Indira Subramanian, who has done groundbreaking work on people with Parkinson's disease, including the deleterious effects loneliness has had on them.
And in our own lives, I hope I can inspire you to care about your own neighborhoods, our own communities. Think about how you can make a difference proactively by picking up the phone today, and think about that neighbor of yours down the street who may not have anyone else who cares about them, that person on your Christmas card list that you've forgotten about for many years. Reach out to them and ask them how they're doing.
We've had lessons on leadership from Rima Ann Nelson, Dr. David Walker, and the 2019 Federal Employee of the Year, Victoria Brahm.
What do you do when you have a COVID pandemic that you don't know when it's going to end and you don't really understand the disease to the level you wish you did? What do you do when people are angry and their emotions are overwhelming? What do you do? Well, you run toward that fire. As a leader, you run toward it and you do something.
You do not manage people. You manage their commitments. You begin to have a conversation with them about what's important to them. What is the desired outcome? Do they support it? Do they agree with it? Are they willing to give you commitments so that you get the goals that get you there?
And you know what he said to me? He said, I'm a Vietnam veteran, and many bad things happened in Vietnam. And I did a lot of bad things in Vietnam. And I live on the streets because this is what I deserve. We have the honor and the privilege to come to work every day and serve our veterans. So we need to seek out those stories that they have not yet told.
Our curators and our team don't just look for people who want the stage. We look for speakers that have something to say. I'm thinking about the diverse canon of speakers we've already had. Evelyn Valdez, telling the story of how her dad and uncle left Peru to join the U.S. military and become American citizens, and how she didn't let her visual impairment stop her from serving.
Because I went blind my senior year and life just took me somewhere else. And that's okay with me, because even though the military didn't have a slot for me, the university classroom had a seat for me. And I made sure that I learned and acquired the necessary and most essential blindness skills so that I could be successful and independent for the rest of my life.
Nicole Weiss, whose family left Ukraine in the early 90s under cover of night with just a few $100s for a better life in the U.S. She talked about the power of connection and why she chose a career serving veterans.
Now more than ever, we must prioritize human connection. Our world history is rich with triumphs that were built from groups of people coming together to uplift one another. The greatest impact we have on this world is not in what we do, but in who we are being, how we show up every day.
We've cried and shared tears of rejoice listening to the resilient testimony of Army veteran Kyaja Lane as she talked about the death by suicide of her active duty husband and how she healed.
I could feel something on the back of my neck just saying, let it go, it's gonna be okay. And in that moment, I started to cry because I knew I was having an experience, and that was basically that I needed to forgive myself. And just like that, I forgave myself. And I ultimately forgave my husband as well. And I recognized how okay I was going to be into my future.
One of our most popular talks came from Vietnam vet Tree Hairston and his story of how he overcame addiction, homelessness, and suicidal ideation with the help of a social worker that may have been on her first day of the job.
So she saw the confusion on my face and she said, why don't we start with why you thought it was necessary to attempt suicide? And she grabbed my wrist and started rubbing the scars. And she said, Eugene, it's okay. It's okay. You're safe here. And we're gonna take real good care of you. Well, the floodgates open. And for the first time, I felt like I needed to trust someone other than myself.
Dr. Richard Stone, executive in charge of Veterans Health Administration during COVID-19, gave one of the most beautifully, timely, and vulnerable talks I've ever heard from a person in his position. As did Daniel Nam, who as a high schooler spent her weekends playing harp for hospice patients in Palo Alto.
But each of those events of our fourth mission, that mission of humanitarian support, have been regional. Never before has the VA been challenged with a nationwide challenge like this. And we made a very simple decision. The only way you could do this, the only way you could avoid being a victim and being alone and being hopeless, was to make a decision to save every possible life you could.
One Saturday morning, I was playing Beethoven's Sonata Pathétique. It's a fairly well-recognized melody, and I happened to have an arrangement for it. So I was playing this piece, and a woman walked up and asked if I could come play for her husband in his room. I, of course, said yes. I picked out a couple of pieces, and I packed up my things, and I went to their room to play for them. And as I played, through the strings, I could see the woman watching her husband, holding his hand. The woman asked if I could play the Moonlight Sonata. The Sonata Pathétique was actually the only Beethoven that I happened to have an arrangement for that week, and I didn't know the chord progression of the Moonlight Sonata well enough to just play it by ear. And so I could have told her, I just don't have this music this week, and played something else. But something about their interlocked fingers on that bed held me back. I Googled the music that I needed, and then I cobbled together an arrangement on the spot from the Grady image pulled up on my iPad. But I finished playing and I looked up, and to my surprise, tears were streaming down her face. She told me then that it was their anniversary, and that she had specifically requested the Moonlight Sonata because it was their song, when he'd proposed to her years and years ago. All those wrong notes and rough edges, which had so bothered me the week before, now seemed insignificant in the face of this overwhelming loss.
Before I leave you today, I have to thank the amazing team that has put TEDx Veterans Affairs together, creating the ability to share these stories with our employees here at the VA. What most don't know is that the entire committee has other jobs, but fit this in like it's all they do because it's important to us to give you something to grow from, something to learn from, and something to be proud of.
Did you know that in 1946, the price for a can of soda was 5 cents? Did you know that if a can of pop is purchased at our Veterans Canteen service, money produced goes back to support the programs that support our veterans? Here's a look inside the history of VCS, where there's more than what meets the eye and the plate.
For 75 years, the Veterans Canteen Service has proudly performed its mission, offering dining, retail, and other services to our nation's veterans, their families, and their VA caregivers. Since 1946, VCS has provided the merchandise and services essential to the comfort and well-being of countless veterans. VCS operates in over 200 VA medical centers throughout the U.S., offering everything from snacks to electronics to hot meals to haircuts. VCS debuted ShopVCS.com, an online shopping platform, in 2018 as a benefit to veterans and their families. Since its inception, VCS associates have rendered the highest level of service to enhance the customer experience and quality of services that have driven the canteen's success. The mission of serving those who served our nation, veterans of the United States Armed Forces, remains our top priority, and our commitment is unwavering. VCS is an integral part of the Department of Veterans Affairs. As a self-sustaining organization, revenue generated is given back to veterans programs, such as Beds for Vets, suicide prevention, and emergency support. VCS is also a proud sponsor of the VA's Rehabilitation Games. There is no higher honor than recognizing and serving our veterans, their families, and the VA staff who care for them. Thank you for letting us serve you. 75 years is only the beginning.
Our theme for the 75th anniversary celebration is A Legacy of Service, the Future of Care. Across VHA, program offices and facilities strive daily to share vital information about VA care and services with veterans, recognize the efforts of VA staff and volunteers, and recruit world-class healthcare professionals who want to do mission-driven work that makes a difference. The overarching objective of this campaign is to amplify these efforts through the lens of VHA's history. The Veterans Health Administration will always provide support and care for those who took the oath to defend our country. Since our establishment in 1946, we have taken the deliberate approach to onboard the best personnel to fill our ranks. Our team of professionals have adopted the culture of being a learning organization, sharing and integrating best practices at every level, and continuing to evolve, remain agile, and take action in one of the most complex and rapidly changing industries. Jessica Bonjourney, our Chief Officer for Workforce Management, shares her sentiments towards one of our most precious assets, our employees. When the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Dear colleagues, for 75 years, the Veterans Health Administration has been a national leader in healthcare by providing high-quality care to America's veterans. The past year is a microcosm of our celebrated history, as we have shown the world that an agency with more than 350,000 employees can pivot on a dime to make systemic and lasting change to our business practices. VHA has embraced a rich history of coming together to keep VHA moving full speed ahead. Throughout our storied history, we have responded to significant events such as 9/11 and Hurricane Katrina. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown the world that we can be agile and increasingly innovative when it comes to recruitment and hiring. The reason we've seen such success in this area is because of you, VHA employees, who bring solutions to the table and diligently put them into practice. When many community healthcare systems were furloughing clinical staff because of COVID-19, VA moved mountains to welcome them into the VHA family. VA hired more than 60,000 staff members, including more than 11,000 registered nurses since late March 2020. VHA partnered with OPM to remove hiring barriers. Together, we thoroughly examined the policies and procedures that got in the way of us bringing on high-caliber talent quickly. We lowered the amount of time it took to bring someone on board from 100 days to as little as 2 weeks. As a direct response to COVID, we launched a campaign to bring back retired VA clinicians, and more than 125 retired VA providers came back and are currently serving alongside their former colleagues in various roles across the country. Thank you so much for your selfless service during such unprecedented times. What I've seen across VHA is resiliency and a demonstrated commitment to serving those who have borne the battle. To those in our community who left their families to support the VA's fourth mission, thank you. To provide humanitarian aid demonstrates your commitment not only to the millions of veterans we serve each day, but for the people of the United States. We are a better country because of people like you. Your role was expanded as never before, supporting rapid response teams across the country, procuring essential supplies, and working with frontline health workers in the communities. In fact, there have been more than 3,500 deployments on 98 missions to 49 states and territories to support COVID operations. Volunteers, through the DEMS program, deployed to VA medical centers, but also to non-VA healthcare systems, state veterans homes, and to support our federal partners such as the Indian Health Service. At one point, VHA put out a call for 45 staff to deploy to Arizona, and nearly double that amount stepped up to volunteer within a matter of hours. I cannot thank you enough. Working at VA has been the pinnacle of my professional career. I'm often in awe of your innovative approach to addressing some of the most difficult challenges before us. The work you do continues to inspire and bring forth positive change. VHA will continue to recruit and retain best-in-class talent in our effort to provide the highest quality healthcare to our veterans in 2021 and beyond. Again, none of our hiring success through the pandemic would have been possible without your input, feedback, and resolute commitment to seeing it through. Please join us in celebrating our history and in providing the best care for our employees and veterans over the next 75 years. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Clancy, and it's my honor to introduce the next segment for this special 75th anniversary event. Our innovation ecosystem is awesome. It's made up of leaders in science, research, and technology, all dedicated to shaping the future of healthcare operations at all levels and across the globe. By working together towards a common goal to improve the customer experience. I am so proud of the work our teams have accomplished, helping to change and save the lives of veterans through mission-driven innovation.
Everyone that works at the VA is on the same page, and we all have the same mission, which is to take care of veterans. And so having that same mission coupled with the fact that we have researchers embedded in our hospitals, we have a culture of innovation, that allows us to do things that could never happen in the private sector.
We are exploring new materials and new ways to provide better services more effectively. The recumbent bike is a relatively new thing for us. It works by activating the paralyzed muscles with very small amounts of electric current. And by timing the activation of those paralyzed muscles with the crank cycle, we can allow disabled vets who have paralysis to exercise either on a trainer or actually progress to pedaling over ground. It allows them to be outside, and members of the community, they feel engaged, a feeling of freedom, moving under their own power.
One of the innovation programs that we have here is the exoskeleton program, and the exoskeleton is a robotic suit that helps veterans who acquired the spinal cord injury to stand up and walk back on their feet. It made a significant difference in their quality of life and achievement towards restoring some of the mobility. This is a great honor that we are just really helping people who risk their life for the entire country.
"3D printing is a really cool technology. It's a way of making objects layer by layer. Beautiful thing about it is it really works well with medical imaging data. So when we image a person, we take layers of images, find the important anatomy within that image. Let's say it's your heart. So we can trace out the heart within those images and then send that to a 3D printer that will rebuild your exact heart in three-dimensional space.
Patients have got to understand the procedure that they've agreed to undergo. When you can have a 3D printed model of not just any aorta, but their aorta, the patient finally understands exactly what we're going to do for them, and they can ask the proper questions.
We're getting more and more materials that act or mimic real biological tissue so that you can feel the muscle and you can feel the coarse calcifications that are causing disease. That's just over the last year or two, and it's going to keep growing. I'm excited to see what comes next.
With every generation of veterans, they face unique challenges and ones that we can't possibly predict. As our population changes, we must be agile enough and innovative enough to meet their needs quickly and in real time.
Transcending Self-Therapy, or TST, is a form of integrative cognitive behavioral therapy. TST is a little unique in that it really emphasizes the moral compass or spiritual beliefs that patients have, and then tries to develop a way so that they can live in accordance with those belief systems.
That was something totally new to me. Instead of focusing everything on the 12 steps, it was on challenging your thoughts, your feelings. Are they true? Are they helpful?
So these guys, yes, they have substance abuse issues. The opioid problems that we're experiencing in this country are horrible. But we're seeing a lot of progress, and the innovations we're allowed to make here seems to be helping to address those. All we're trying to do is help them understand their thinking patterns and behavior patterns, which lead to depression and substance abuse.
I'm thinking about, in the long run, with me and my family, my fiance and my stepson. Got to be able to take care of them.
We see patients coming back and saying, "This is my 10th rehab, or this is my 5th rehab. It finally clicked."
For some of our veterans, being seen at a place that's comfortable for them is essential, being able to provide the care that they need. We have an innovation happening right now that we call Mobile Ops, that stands for Mobile Orthotics and Prosthetic Services. We're breaking down barriers to care for some of our veterans that are having challenges coming to see us at our VA facilities. As simple as it sounds, it's also radical. So Matthew is a gentleman who has worn a prosthesis for many years, but generally not been very comfortable. We've now made 3 or 4 sockets for him, the last of which we're trying on today, and we're hopeful that this will be a really good fit.
I was refusing to go into the VA and take care of my prosthetics. I was walking around on a leg for 3 years that was broken. I was so scared to go out in public, and have a panic attack or some kind of adrenaline rush. I feel very privileged, to have the VA come to my home to do my prosthetic care. Seeing the VA taking another step forward to offer a service like this really shows me that they are paying attention to things, they are taking the veterans' feedback, and they genuinely care. This leg is phenomenal, and it has allowed me to do some great things with my life.
The future of VHA innovation is an exciting one. We're partnering with academia, we're partnering with industry to bring cutting-edge solutions into the VA.
It's not only that we get to innovate to help the veterans here, but now it's spreading across the country.
Innovation's hard. It's not easy. It's a lot of hitting walls, it's a lot of no's, it's a lot of failures, and it's a lot of frustrations. So why do we innovate? It's because we know that once we get it right, we're going to really change patients' lives. And that's why we do it.
I hope you share my profound joy in celebration of our 75th anniversary event. I hope that you are left with a better understanding of where we came from as an organization and where we are going, thanks to our dedicated VHA family and community support. Remember, our freedoms are not free, but granted to us thanks to the women and men who were and are prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice for our liberty. Happy 75th anniversary, VHA.